finding reliable information and tools for investing and trading in cryptocurrencies. I'm sure you've heard it before, but cryptocurrencies are still heavily under-regulated as of now. Misinformation and straight-up fraud are pretty rampant. It goes along with the new investor class, new asset class we talked in the lesson before. The average person's getting involved, and there's not the safety precautions for what can be advertised. For instance, the best way to decide if a project is worth your time and money is to analyze all the information you can possibly find. The most obvious place to start is a project's official website. Really, what you should be watching out for is some sort of buzzword soup. Is the website simply buzzwords with no real substance? A lot of projects tend to throw these terms around, yet their business models have nothing to do with any of those concepts. They simply use the words in hopes that you do not sit back and really digest the string of new words to discover really it's all meaningless. They don't want you to sit there and really think about how those concepts tie into what they're actually trying to do. Some words: distributed, blockchain, decentralized, liquid, consensus, everything along those lines, including the picture I have here of the dots and lines connecting the blockchain. Pretty safe to say a lot of those, I would be careful. Really treat those white papers like you would a business proposal. The coin or token should have a clear use case. Of course, there are very few projects out there that actually even need a token. The token really adds no value to what they're doing besides to raise money, which is obviously a valid use case for one, for the company, just not for the investor. Next you could do is, on the same lines of the token that they issue, check the token and coin supply. There's a circulating supply, there's a total supply, and there's a maximum supply of tokens. If only 5 or even 50% of the maximum token supply is even sold to investors, there's plenty of reason to be concerned about the future of that particular project. That means that more than half the coin is held by a central party, which does not bode well for decentralization. How is that wealth concentrated? Do 1% of the holders own 90 plus percent of the coin? Ripple's an example there, where only 80% is kept by the company Ripple itself, which is not a decentralized currency. Really reach out to the online community. You really have to branch out of your comfort zone, and find every community for that project. Don't just stick to a Facebook group. Don't just stick to a Telegram channel. Really try to engage with the community. Get a feel for the maturity of the investors, what kind of investors are taking place in there. Technically inclined investors, or investors that simply saw an ad online. Ask questions, engage. Really, the activity and the hype around the growth of the project. Doing this for a project won't get you anyway. Doing that for a single project won't get you anywhere. The real value comes from interacting with a dozen of unique communities. So don't just look at the Ripple community, because they'll be gung-ho about Ripple. Take a look at the Ethereum community, the Bitcoin community, the Neo community, every other community, and you can kind of gauge the level of euphoria in each community. That's the only way you're going to be able to make comparisons. So check out Reddit. Subreddits are pretty much where cryptocurrency development lives. Telegram groups are okay. Facebook and Twitter are also all right. I'd stick to Twitter majority, though, simply because every major developer is extremely active on Twitter. Twitter is a place where crypto is done, pretty much. All the information is spread. So I would recommend you follow every single developer you could possibly find to get a real feel for the space. These guys live and breathe cryptocurrencies, and they're not afraid to call out scams or misinformation. People like Vitalik, Satoshi Light, and Andreas Antonopoulos, Elizabeth Stark, Peter Todd. There are a few other ones that aren't really specifically developers, but they're pretty good proponents of the space. Major coins, really, some of these major coins only survive because of the echo chamber that social media allows. The tech does not compare to anything else in the field. It simply just is useless, but they rise in value simply because of marketing dollars. Some of these coins like Verge, BitConnect, Tron, Dash, they're not anything interesting at all from a development standpoint. And the longevity it just isn't there. But the marketing dollars are. So I would be very careful and try to figure out what an echo chamber is and try to avoid them. Really what you can do is you can even create a simple investment list that you check every time you try to pick a new coin. Things to consider when picking an investment is the problem and solution. What are the problems they're really trying to address? What's the importance of solving that problem? Do they have a solution? Are there any other projects trying to solve this problem? And really compare the different solutions that these people have for the same problem. Why is the solution better than the others, for instance? Is it really clearly explained? Because if a lot of people, like we talked about before, use that buzzword soup instead of clearly explaining it in simple terms. They shouldn't rely on these overly complicated phrases and trademarked phrases, for instance. Trademark phrases that they come up with instead of actually explaining it clearly. Alongside the technical side of the paper, a solution should be explained in everyday terms. People call it the white paper, yellow paper. So the team and transparency are also another factor I would create in a list. Can the management team implement the solution? How does their previous experience relate to the opportunity? Why are they even qualified to implement that particular solution? And why are they qualified to deliver it? What's missing from their team maybe? Maybe how, kind of in parentheses, hungry is the management team? How active are they in bringing on new talent and developers? How transparent is their team is a big one. Transparency in the space, the entire space is built upon open source technology, and which is completely transparent, and a team should be transparent to follow. Has anyone even seen their product? Do you know that their product's even there and will work? Is there demos? Is there betas? Is there alphas? Is it just vaporware? Do they have a GitHub where people can go and check their code? Is their team active in like Slack or Telegram where you can actually go talk to some of their team members? And are they very responsive? A responsive team is very indicative of a strong project. And then you have the marketplace and the competition within that marketplace. Is the market even large enough to support substantial growth? Are they really going for like a very niche application, or they're going something very broad that has a large overall market cap? How large of that market segment is even being targeted? Who will be their customers, for instance? How will they get people to use their product? Do they have any sort of incentives, marketing? Why will people even use it? What do people use now? So you can kind of compare it to how that's different than what the proposed solution is. Why will people switch to the current model, or their current product? If there are existing competitors, what will they do differently? How is their solution or product different from the rest of the market? What currencies may compete with theirs in the future? Looking forward, are they able to adapt? What's their current value proposition? Are there any barriers to entry that will make it difficult for competitors to enter the market? What new entrants to the space do? Why hasn't this opportunity been taken already by someone else? How much money do they plan to raise? When do they need this money? Why do they need this money? And how exactly will that money be spent? How quickly can this even be implemented? Investors want to see a return on their money. Has this been addressed by the management team? Are there appropriate incentives for potential investors? Really, to do all this, I would educate yourself on the technology and the markets. So in order to understand the technology, you can really just understand Bitcoin and Ethereum. So there's an open source Bitcoin book and open source Ethereum books, both on GitHub. And really, when you understand those two, once you understand the basics of the two leading cryptocurrencies, which make up 80% of the market cap, Bitcoin and Ethereum, then you have a knowledge base in which can be used for nearly every other coin and tokens. The majority of coins and tokens in the top 100 are either a Bitcoin clone or built directly upon Ethereum. So you have a much better chance of figuring out which projects are unique technologies or simply copy and paste scams. Even if it's different than one of those two, at least you have the base to compare to. What makes it different? What's the competition? Like the whole checklist we had talked about before. So there are tools. I'm not going to list all of them, but Coinigy is great for charting. Coinigy actually uses trading views. You can use either one, but Coinigy, you can pull APIs from the exchanges and trade directly in Coinigy. Then you also have some portfolio trackers. Of course, that's important. You have GetDelta and CoinTracking.com. You have CoinMarketCap, which is easily the most simple way to view the marketplace with official sources.